had this hope and unction that my waiting story might be a blessing to those who are waiting, whether they're trying to conceive, whether they're trying to avoid, whether, like really wherever you're at.
Yeah.
Like when we're in the waiting, to just know that if you feel his heart and don't see his hand,
Mm.
you still have it all. Like, this isn't where I wanted him to move right now. If you just give him your yes and whatever that is and relax into him, I mean, you will see his hand in all sorts of ways that you weren't necessarily expecting. I think that's just a word that I hope it's been the word that he's been giving me over and
Mm.
over and over. And um, I just want to pass it on.
Holy Wild Birth is a podcast embracing the reclamation of giving birth rooted in God's original design, undisturbed.
Here, we share homebirth stories highlighting God's presence as the great midwife, as well as conversations about all aspects of a holistic, spirit-led childbearing year, from the perspectives of myself, traditional midwife Lauren Hall, of Rooted in Eden Private Membership Association,
And me, holistic birthkeeper and photographer Brooke Collier of Sister Birth. Together, we are co-founders and facilitators of Hearth Mother Journey, where we are raising up the next generation of holy wild birth keepers.
To choose a holy wild birth journey is to consecrate all of your decisions unto the Lord and reclaim creation unadulterated by centuries of human attempts to control and improve upon what God has called good.
Please remember that birth is not a medical event, but a natural process, and we are not your care providers, so this should not be taken as medical advice. Well, hello, friends. Welcome to A Cup of Tea. Hi,
Hello,
Lauren.
hello.
I'm literally drinking tea this time for once.
Be the first
I
time
know. It might
that there
be,
was
really.
actual tea on Brooke's end.
Yeah, it's usually some other drink or no drink at all.
I have no drink today, but
Mm,
it is what it is.
yeah.
I guess I do have some good spring water over here, but I don't have like a nice warm cup of cuppy happiness. I do have spring water that I drive 2 hours to collect.
You guys are very dedicated in that department.
We are very dedicated to our water. That is for sure.
It's the heaviest day of my bleed today, and I suddenly remembered that I have this brew called, what's called Bitches Brew. That's the cute name for it, but it's like a tea for during your bleed, an herbal tea. So I was like, oh, I forgot I
Sure.
had that. I'm gonna use that. And then I got this new mug. Isn't it cute?
Yes.
A little teacup.
It's a cute tiny little mug.
I got it at the thrift store this weekend. So
You
it's
gotta
helping.
love a good
It's a nice
thrifted mug. Yeah.
cozy situation here.
Nice. Well, that's good. Well, we've had a lot going on, I feel like, in both of our lives, but not also I feel like there's been a lot, but also not, if that makes
Hmm.
any sense. There's been a lot of emotional stuff happening and a
Hmm.
lot of, like, beginnings of things and a lot of shutting down of things, but it's, like,
Hmm.
also really, I don't know, interesting. I feel like it's been an interesting time period, at least for me, I can say, of trying to stop doing as much and I don't know, but then also a
But
huge
also
beginning
doing a huge thing.
but also doing a huge thing. So, like, I don't know, it's just been a paradoxical season, I think.
Yeah, like quiet on the surface, but not under the surface, maybe.
Right. Yes, it's like there's a lot going on underneath,
Mhm.
a lot of rumblings in good ways and in less glamorous ways. I wouldn't call them bad, but they've not been easy or
Mhm.
happy per se.
Hmm. Well,
So, have
yeah.
some teasers of what we're gonna talk about here.
Yeah, that was just some vague sharing there, but
Vague
we'll
sharing there.
get more specific here. Let's Shall we start with talking about the thing that we have in common this month that's going on for both of
Yeah.
us, but from 2 different angles? I think that might be a fun place to start,
Yeah, so HMO,
which stands for
Hearth Mother Midwifery and School.
thank you.
We previously called it AMU, Anointed Midwifery and School, back when I
first just felt the call, of the Lord to to say, like, "Hey, raise up these hearth mothers. Like, it's time. I want you to teach midwifery. I want you to teach, my birth servants, my handmaidens." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Like in 20 years." And he was like, "No, now. Like in 2 weeks." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" And so that's literally how it started. And it was started as AMU, started as just a gentle like mentoring calls, and then that, like, overflowed into the creation of HJ, and then
Mm.
we, have had this amazing journey with no pun intended, with HJ, and a lot of what was created with AMU was moved into the HMU, and maybe we've already said some of this, but just kind of a backstory for you if you needed a quick catch up. So we've dropped HMU finally,
Woo woo!
and Brooke is in there
I'm a
as
student.
a student, and it's just been really wild to see like HMU finally in like a form that is like this is its final form. I don't remember if I said this last time or not in that update, but I have very much felt like I'm in the labor of it. Like there has been a lot of gestation and a lot of, forming of it and then reforming of it and like, okay, it's gonna look like this. Well, actually that was for HA and actually that's for later and that's for, and just a lot of reforming and refinement and to put it in pregnancy language, it just felt like that was the development, that was the gestation, and now I'm like, it's not fully birthed, like, there's still
Mhm,
some work to be done, and it's, like, the heavy lifting work, and it's all mapped out, and there's a well, no it's the whole thing is mapped out, there's a huge amount of lessons mapped out, but it's, like, the heavy work of doing it week
mhm,
to week. We're dropping this lesson, okay, I'm gonna drop this lesson, and
mhm.
and
'Cause
so it
you've
just
put
feels
accountability in place by bringing
Yes.
on 10, like, initial students. I'm one of
Yes.
the first 10, so, like, now you have us here
To
chomping at the
say
bit, waiting for you to drop the
waiting
next
for the
piece of
next
content.
lesson. Yep.
Yeah,
So
uh-huh,
it's been the labor of it, and it's been really amazing to see, to finally be like, it is laborious, but it's also really joyful, and it's,
mhm.
like, the thing that's really giving me life. It's the thing that I just wanna, like, hyperfixate and only do, and, like, recognizing that there's other things in my life that I have to do still. I'm
The nerve.
super geeking out. I know, right? I'm super geeking out about the A&P lessons I'm about to be dropping, and working on more diligently. I'm still in some of the prologue is what I've called it, and then A&P is next. And so I have these 2 beautiful A&P books that, like, if you could see me
She hugs
hold
them
them.
to her chest like they're her precious twins, and I grimace because I told her that's, like, probably the module I'm the most not excited about. It just
I
feels, like,
am
really daunting to me, and she's like, "I love it, I just love it."
so exciting. I'm so excited about this. Of all the things that is going into HMU, I feel like this is going to be such a like its hallmark, the thing that's very set apart from other midwifery schooling options because it's bringing in a truly holistic view, a truly like not homeopathy, like when you think of what you think of when I say homeopathy, but the homeopathic philosophy, the principle, the like thought process, the very much opposite of the allopathic thinking of just looking at the integrated whole and understanding what symptoms are saying to us and compensation patterns, and then like the actual understanding of physiology behind lab work and like functional lab work. And so it's just a truly holistic functional AMP course, the course that I wish had existed.
Mhm.
I'm making, and I'm just really excited about it, which is funny because I used to hate AMP. And I think about, Lauren, I don't know, 15 years ago, 12, 13, I don't know how long ago it was, 13, 14 years ago, that I was like trying to study midwifery AMP and was like, I am never going to understand this. Like,
That's
what
how I
is
feel right
this?
now. Yeah.
And I would just like looking at honestly a pretty basic AMP book and just feeling very overwhelmed with it. And now I'm like, yay! So like
That gives me hope. Maybe that can be that way for me too.
yes, yes. I hope that it will because it's also rooted in as in all the HMU things is very much rooted in scripture and like the honoring of the design, and there's so much theology and like symbolism that he wove into the body, which
Mhm.
I think is
I
what
believe it.
makes me so excited about it, and just like a key hallmark of this is that I talk about even with my clients and anybody who will listen, who accidentally asks, is like our body, our physiology needs, like, we need Jesus, but our body needs everything that Jesus represents in the analogies he said of himself, right? Like, so he said he's the living water, and he said he is the bread of life, right? He said he's the salt of the earth. Like, that is the light of the world. Like, we're talking light and water and minerals and sustenance, like
Mhm.
and he is the blood of, the blood of life. Like, the life is in the blood, and it all points back to him. Like, everything that our body needs and is run by points to him. And so even
Mhm.
that understanding is like woven into how we look at the anatomy and physiology and what is happening.
So
Um,
good.
and so I'm just excited about it because no one's talking about those things.
Right, yeah. That will make it more colorful and rich on the student end too. And
I
I was
hope so.
telling you even, I remember in my undergrad, and I had to take all these, like, gen eds, and I signed up for geology class
Yeah.
randomly because, have to have a gen ed in the earth sciences, and not excited about it, but I had this professor who was through the roof, like, over the top, gleefully joyful about rocks and minerals and gemstones and and how just riding his passion, I actually got pretty into it and did really well in a class that I don't know that I would have done well in or even enjoyed at all had it been a
Yeah.
different professor. So I think that having you as a teacher carrying a true delight and passion in the subject, I mean, it makes a huge difference who you're learning
Yeah,
from and
it
what their
does.
heart posture
I
is
hope
towards the content.
I hope that that is true for
Mhm.
for you and for many.
Yeah. But for now,
So
we're still in the prologue, which I am not finding. I mean, it's so good. I'm so glad there is a prologue and it's really rich. And some of it I feel like you might have written with me in mind. Um,
I didn't.
well, okay, well, the birth keeper to midwife transition lesson,
Sure.
I just was going through that. And I was like, did she write this to me? Because I feel like she did. And
It's
that's
like,
probably that's me having a egocentric viewpoint.
sure.
But
Don't we all? Don't we all?
well, just
I
to say it,
actually
it
I
really
will
spoke to me.
say, as I was writing that, I felt like I wanna make sure that she doesn't feel called out by anything. I did think that a few times of like, okay, make sure I'm writing this for anybody, like
Mhm.
making sure that it didn't feel harsh or that it never demeaned birth keepers in any way because it's not like I raise up birth keepers. I think that there's a value and a need
Yes,
for that role,
100%.
and I fully stand by that. And yet there's difference between a birth keeper and a
Mhm.
midwife
Yep.
in at least by my definition of it. I recognize there are birth keepers out there that are just they're midwives, but they take the title of birth keeper because of protection, not because of like they're not wanting to be a midwife, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But and so I was speaking to that specific of just like what does that transition look like?
Mhm.
And that's just I mean, it makes sense that it would speak to you a lot because that's
Yeah.
really the place that you're in right
In
now.
some ways, it felt less like it was calling me away from something or to something, and more like it was holding up a mirror to what
Uh-huh.
has already been happening inside of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this I was reading it, and I was like, "This shift is already well underway
Is well underway.
internally." Like,
Yes.
and I was like, "Okay." It just gave maybe some language and further levels of clarity to an internal experience that I hadn't fully maybe recognized even, but for sure not given their full expression to. So in some ways it was like affirming, like, "Oh, I feel seen by this."
Good,
And in
good.
other ways it was a beckoning to keep
Keep
coming,
coming.
like, it's
Yeah,
okay
yeah.
to keep coming in this direction, like,
Right. It's safe
um
to do so. Yeah,
yeah.
because it does bring up some ideologies, some real ideologies that are true and real and
Mhm.
important, but, like, to hold them up and be like, "Okay, is this really where I stand, and is this where I wanna stand, and how does this affecting the transition I wanna make?"
Yeah, internally, it doesn't feel too threatening or unsafe to make those transitions,
Good,
because
love that.
I feel like they've been softening for quite a while. I think the bigger tension comes in the particulars of when I get too caught up in looking at the context of law and where I live and what I'm allowed and not allowed
Good.
to do and say about myself, and
Sure.
that is where more of the feeling of this is dangerous, those kinds of bells start to go off for me around that more so.
Mhm.
Like, 'cause it feels like this thing is already happening in me, it's well underway, and some of it I haven't even gone looking for. It's just like the formation has just been happening, just like you grow and you change, you evolve as a
Mhm.
person, and then to realize the direction in which I'm evolving is, like, not allowed. Does that make
Mm.
sense? Like,
Yeah.
oh, if I keep evolving in this way, then I'm becoming more of a liability to myself, and, so that's gonna be the bigger wrestle. Yeah. But
Mm.
it's really good content, and um, feels important that we're starting there. And I'm also really eager to get into some of the more nitty gritty. I feel like I've spent a lot of time thinking and obsessing over like how to structure myself to be protected, safe, allowed to move forward. And then I kind of almost want to stop worrying about the external trappings and just start learning the things and getting the skills and becoming
Yeah,
the person.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which is interesting that that's where you feel you've been focusing because there's not been a lesson on any of that yet.
on
On
the
the legal trappings, and I guess there's
no,
been
there hasn't,
some.
but there's been conversation in our student group, and you and I have
Sure.
had endless
Yeah,
conversations, and we
yeah,
have these
yeah.
conversations with our Hearth Mother Journey students all the time too. I mean, you cannot
You can't get away from
explore
it.
birth work without facing those things
Yeah,
and
100%.
fussing over them a little bit and, like,
Mhm.
discerning and, like, asking the Lord for wisdom and coming face to face with the reality of the persecution that's inherent to women who wanna serve other women in birth. Like,
Yeah.
no matter what title you wanna go by, we have a long history
Mhm.
of it being under attack. So,
Yeah. Which I
I
guess the
just
procession lesson kind of just highlights a lot of that, I
I'm
bet.
sure. I haven't read that one yet.
Have you not?
No, because
I'm very excited about that
I'm
one.
trying to actually do some of the inputs and outputs in response to each
Sure.
lesson before I read them all, which is a
Yeah.
little hard. Part of me just wants to plow forward.
Yeah. And it's okay if you find your flow,
Mhm.
return as you need, or
Yep,
just
because
stay.
it is an unschool.
It is an unschool. There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Well,
that's that.
that's
Life
HMU.
is underway. I got pretty binders, taking advantage of my library's free printing,
Yeah.
and got a nice notebook. I just love the study materials Tim was teasing me about. It's like, "You love being a student." And I was like, "I kinda do."
I
And
kind of.
he's like, "It's so ironic that you love being a student and you are such a good one, and you don't send your kids to school and don't even make them do any curriculum." It's like, it is a little ironic,
It's the
but
same. I mean, I'm the exact same way. I love all the things, but you know what? They get to see that. They get to see that we're forever learners, that we're
yeah,
still learning those things. That's a modeling the
that's
learning
true.
versus sending them off to school so they can have their curiosity killed.
Yeah, and if my kid wanted to enroll in a program or, like, some special training about something, I would absolutely be
Oh,
like, "Yeah,
100%.
do it, and let's go
Yeah.
school supply shopping.
Yeah,
Let's get
for
you the
sure.
notebooks and the pens and the, like, pouches for the pens, and let's do
Yep,
it."
100%. Every time they've been interested in that, that's like, "Okay, cool. What do you want?
Mhm.
How do we do that? Let's set you up."
Yeah.
Yep. I'm totally in that same boat. I'm a forever student, and I love it so much. I mean, all the pretty pens
Mhm.
and the
No, keep that curiosity
and the
burning.
mhm. It has been really fun to see everybody's pretty binders full of, like, my writing, like,
I
that's
bet, yeah.
that's
Stuff
crazy.
you made, uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like, that's there.
Yeah, and the
I'm
stacks of books that you prescribed to us.
I didn't prescribe that many. I just said these were all recommended and things like, there's the
Yeah.
required text, which I think is only like 3
That's a
books.
pretty short list, but a couple of those
Yeah.
are tomes that cost over $100 each.
Yeah, I mean,
So there's
holistic
that.
midwifery
I
is
luckily had both of them, but already.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, you're not gonna go to a midwifery school that's not
No,
something one of
so
those
true.
is required,
Absolutely. Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
is part of it, but that's why I also put all the others of, like, I will mention these and recommend them, but,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be a Hearth Mother library for sure.
So fun. I always look for excuses to get more books.
Yes.
Yeah. The problem is I tend to act like if I just have them on my shelf, I'll somehow absorb them all by osmosis. I don't always actually read them all.
A book dragon more than a bookworm, you know?
Is that what we call that?
Yes.
Okay.
Or they're like, "My treasures."
Yeah. And if I just lay next to them or like look at their spines, won't that information just come through
Mhm.
to me?
Yeah, for sure.
No, it won't.
For sure. Yeah. Well, if you just clutch your anatomy and physiology book to your heart and just be happy about it.
And somehow learn it all, if
And
only.
somehow learn it all. Yeah, right? Well, what else has been going on this month for you over the last last month or
Uh,
so?
I attended 2 births in April.
Lovely.
It feels like it's the first time in a while that I had 2 in a month. Yeah. So and they were, like, so different from one another in most ways, very alike to one another in important ways,
Mm.
and both really beautiful. So one was, like, a first-time mom, who was in almost finished becoming an OB, that was planning a
Mm.
home birth, and that was just such an interesting setup even. Really long. I was with them for 32 hours total, I think. I think that's right. But she did it, you know? And at one point, it looked like she wasn't gonna do it. And by do it, I mean finish having her baby at home. But the whole atmosphere, the whole it was really a nice time, honestly. I looked back at those 32 hours as having been a really nice time. We
Mm.
walked in the woods, she labored outside for a really long time, even got a sunburn. There was lots of worship, lots of prayer, um, just lots of I don't know, just being. I felt like a lot of grace to be patient with the
Mm.
process. It never felt like something's wrong here that we have to fix or figure out. It just seemed like here's a mother who's on her journey, and she needs to
Yeah.
take her journey, and I just need to be with her.
It's beautiful.
It's not that we didn't do any, like, little doula hacks and tricks. We did, but not a ton, and it never felt like in an anxious way, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
I was
support.
yeah. I was just serving as her doula, so she also had a midwife and a student midwife who arrived about halfway through the time that I was with them, I think, and yeah, just beautiful and did well. Much rejoicing, all praise to God. And then a couple weeks later, I went to one for a mom who's having her 4th, second home birth. I was her birth keeper. And that one was quite quick. She texted me her water broke in the middle of the night. I joined them around 10 a.m. in the morning when her contractions were starting to get close enough together that her app told her she should go to the hospital. And I was there for just a couple and a half hours before the baby was born. But it was kind of funny
Right.
because it seemed like nothing was happening. Like I kept thinking she's going to start pushing any second, and she would keep not. And she was like, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. And then suddenly there was a head. Okay, here we
Oh,
go.
something's happening.
Yeah, it is happening. Well, it was shortly after she said she was gonna die, which,
Oh,
that fits.
I was like, okay, there she is.
Yeah, and her children came running into the room right as the baby was emerging, like, perfect timing, couldn't I don't even know how they knew to come up at that moment, but it was perfection.
Mhm.
I caught the baby. Dad didn't want to, and she wasn't able to, and it was that or let him plop down into some puddle of unpleasant things. Yeah, and again, just really beautiful, peaceful birth.
Yeah.
And you could feel the nearness of God, and just the joy of this much longed for child was so palpable. Anyway, so those were great. I love coming home from a birth with like a happy, satisfied feeling in my heart. It doesn't always
Yeah.
happen, you know?
Yeah.
But it did happen twice in April, and I
It was
feel really
beautiful.
blessed by that.
That is beautiful. I'm hoping that I get a few of those this year in my very few low volume. I'm like, my heart needs a few of those. And I feel just even blessed hearing about them from you. Like, it just is like, my heart needs that right
Yeah.
now, is getting that. Like, it's receiving just how beautiful birth can work and be and does, and just
Yeah.
how near he is in those times. I think that's just the best part. Like, he's just like the manifest presence of the Lord is
Mm.
just so real and tangible in a birth space.
Mhm.
Really, no matter the outcome. Like, he just is
Truth.
always
Yeah.
there. He's just always there.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
When I was doing a transition dialogue with one of our Hearth Mother Journey students, and I prayed for her at the end of it. For listeners who
Mhm.
don't know, a transition dialogue is like the exit interview kind of that we do with our students as they're finishing up Hearth Mother Journey before
Yeah.
we give them their badges and certificate of completion and stuff. Anyway, so I was praying for her at the end of the transition dialogue, and as soon as I said amen, she said, "I saw a dove on your shoulder." She's like, "You were in a home supporting a birth, and there was a tremendous sense of peace, and there was a dove on your
Mm.
shoulder." So I'm still
Mm.
kind of sitting with that picture, but
Yeah,
it kind of feels like it fits for those 2 births, actually, but hopefully it will continue to be. I
it
want the
is.
dove. I want the dove on my shoulder all the
I think,
time in every birth room.
yes, yes, he is. This feels relevant in my head, but it might feel like a departure, but it connects to me because last year I had a lot of really hard births. I saw a ton of emergencies, and most of them saw the hand of the Lord, didn't have to transfer, we were able to handle things at home and, worked out beautifully and healthy, happy moms, babies and stuff, but just a few of them required some real work, but one in particular, we knew that she may not stay with us.
Yeah.
And so she'd been diagnosed with Down syndrome, and she'd had some lung development issues that were showing up. And not to go into all of her story, but it was just like we knew going in that we may not have the ideal picture we wanted of a baby staying.
Mhm.
So, and that is, she did go on to be with the Lord, but that birth was so peaceful. Like it was a type of peace that, I mean, it was just tangible.
Mm.
It was a point of, like, it was almost I don't know how to explain it unless you've experienced it, but it was like, "This is too much peace. Oh, no. Oh,
Oh,
no." Like, this means that he's near to the brokenhearted peace. Is the peace beyond understanding kind of peace that was like, when I felt him come in, I was like, "Oh, he didn't just send peace, he came himself." Like,
mm,
and I don't, you know what I mean? Like, theologically, he's always here and Holy Spirit's always there and all, but there was just this like, "Oh, the King of Glory is here."
mm,
And, "Oh, I'm gonna have to work, aren't I?" Like like, "Okay." And so I say all that to say there's this song, "What a God," and there's been a line in it that is just really wrapped up that experience, and also the grappling of when I felt his peace, and yet it wasn't a quote unquote good outcome, whether it be the extreme of, like, that baby being called home a week later. She had very underdeveloped lungs.
mhm,
Or, just hard birth, just a birth plan that didn't go as we wanted, or, whatever that might be. In What a God, it says, like, "If I feel your heart but never see your hand,
mm,
I still have it all. I still have it all."
mm,
And I just really grappling with the truth. Like, I guess grappling is not the right word. Mulling over, meditating on, holding on to the truth that, like, I mean, that's so true. Like,
mm.
we felt his heart. We felt his nearness, even when we didn't see his hand the way we wanted. And we have it all. Like, we have it all. And I just think it's this birth work, when you see these beautiful births that you get, like, that you just got to go to, and they're just perfect, and he's so near, and he's so just present, and all glory to God. And then, like, the hard ones that my body is still dealing with some trauma from,
Yep.
it's like, but I still have it all. Like, I still felt him. He was still so there. He was still like, glory be to God. He carried us through. And it's just the juxtaposition and the paradox. I think, unless you know the Lord, you just can't understand it. But that's like the gift of this work,
Mm,
is getting to, go where some are afraid to go
mhm,
for whatever reason.
mhm,
And the reward of it is that you feel his heart, and often we see his hand, but man, if you just get his heart, you just get his presence on it. Like, it's everything.
mhm. The dove.
The dove. The dove.
So, yeah, it's me, and I also had a birthday.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, like my own, to be
Yeah.
clear.
Happy birthday to
Thank
Brooke.
you. Yeah, I turned 46, which in some ways feels like whatever, just another number, and in other ways feels like that's now closer to 50 than 40, and that's
It
real weird.
is. Is it weird?
A little bit. I mean, only if I stop and think about it. I feel blessed. I still don't feel, people say like when you get in your 40s, you're suddenly gonna feel like you're falling apart at the seams or whatever. And I'm really not. I just really don't.
No.
That's not been my experience.
Negative. Negative.
I mean, there's been little times where I feel like my body was like, no, this is going to be different. And
Sure.
I just kind of need to learn how to like take care of myself differently and tweak a couple little things. But it's never felt like, oh, let the deterioration begin. Here we go.
Yeah. That's icky. That's such a
So I don't want to live in that like
yeah.
expectation of, and I find usually people are pretty surprised when they find out how old I am and tell me they would have guessed quite a lot younger. Hopefully that doesn't mean I come across as immature, but just that I look
No.
younger.
You're not
um,
immature.
But I had a wonderful birthday. I mean, my actual birthday day was pretty normal work day, but then I got to go out for dinner with a bunch of friends from my parish, and I asked them all to bring something beautiful to share.
Mm.
Instead of like presents or whatever, I was just like, just bring something beautiful, whether it's a poem or a song or a photo or a piece of art or an object you found or have or like a piece of nature.
I love that
Yeah.
so much.
Did I not tell you about that?
No. I
Yeah.
totally would have sent you something beautiful just to add to that.
Well, it was a
That's
really impulsive thing. Like I didn't decide to do it until like 2 days, I think, before we were scheduled to go out for dinner.
I love that so much. Oh my
And it came up
goodness.
because one of them sent me a recording of a song she was working on that was partly inspired by something I had prayed over her during
Uh-huh.
Sunday service. And so she's like, "I just want to share this with you." And I was listening to her song when I was, like, driving through the countryside, and I was like, "Oh my word, this is so good. It's so beautiful." And then I was like, "I just need more beauty in my life, and I need to train my eye on beauty," because truth is I've been doing a lot of doom scrolling lately.
Oh,
And I have been feeling pretty overwhelmed by the state of the American church
yeah.
and our country and war and immigrants and refugees and all these things. So when I heard her song and it just was melting me and I could feel things unraveling in me as I just listened to
Mhm.
the beauty of this song, I thought, if I just had everybody bring something beautiful to my birthday dinner.
Yeah.
And so they did. So we were sitting around the table, and while we waited for our Indian food to arrive, we just took turns sharing our beautiful thing and why we chose it. And a few of the women said, "I'm so glad you gave us this prompt because ever since you prompted it, I have been seeing beauty. I have been noticing it, and it's everywhere." And just
Okay.
yeah.
I am going to extend this prompt to our podcast listeners because
Ooh,
what a
I love
beautiful
it.
exercise. I'm like sitting here going, "Oh, I want to find something beautiful to, and just
Hmm.
yes, like let's do that. So jump into our Hearth Mother Ministries community and share something
Yeah,
beautiful.
well, that's a
Like,
good
can
idea.
we just share something beautiful with each other?
Please, please
We need
consider it a
to
birthday gift to me.
consider it a birthday gift.
And yours is kind of coming up too, so
Mine's
it's a
coming up.
birthday gift for both of us. Guys,
Yes.
get in there and share your beauty.
Yep, mine is in almost exactly a month. June 6th is my birthday,
Yay.
and I turned 40, and I'm so excited about
Yeah,
it.
40.
I'm so excited about it. Uh, and we don't normally do, like, parties or any of that, but my husband's planning something that I don't get to know anything about.
I don't know anything about it either.
Yeah. But I just love this. So, yes, for birthday, love for just because the world needs some more beauty.
Yes, it does.
Because we all need more beauty, because you need to find beauty today. Please
Mhm.
share us beauty in the community. I think that that would be so lovely.
Yeah, I would love that. That would make me really happy.
Yeah.
So that happened on my birthday night, and then my birthday weekend, I happened to be off call, which I wasn't expecting, and so I had, like, this little window of off call time. So my brother and sister-in-law have this cabin nestled between a national forest and Lake Michigan, and, it's one of my favorite places, and I was like, "You guys, is there any chance it's open? Could I head up there if I'm off call?" And they said, "Yes." So I spent about 32 hours up there, 36 hours
Love
by
it.
myself, and I like, walked by the lake and napped on the shoreline and took a
Mhm.
hike in the misty rain through the forest and read books and studied and watercolored and had a bath and ate good food and prayed, and it was just
It's
and journaled, and
glorious.
it was so refreshing. Talk about beauty.
Yes.
It was absolutely a beauty-filled couple of days.
I need a beauty weekend.
You
I think
do.
that's what we need to call that.
A beauty weekend.
Beauty weekend. I
Yeah.
need a beauty weekend.
Probably we all do.
And we
Probably
p
everyone. Every one of our listeners probably could use one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But so anyway, that's enough about me and my things. But I really want to have you talk a little bit. You know, you had told me ahead of time that you were feeling kind of a nudge from the Lord to talk a little bit about something that's pretty personal and a little vulnerable,
yeah,
but also possibly something that others might really would benefit from hearing.
yeah, and I hope it
So,
will. And I think it's a nice honestly, like, I'm needing the beauty because of some of this, like,
mhm.
it ties so deeply into the letting the ground rest, like, what does that look like? And, so most of our listeners will know, that in January, we lost a baby really early on pregnancy. We named her Eden Rain, and, I don't remember if I shared much of this, but, like, back when we did, I think, the Stewarding Our Fertility podcast, somewhere in there, I had been on a journey just like, I feel so very done, but really it was a lot of grief that I was carrying from my loss of Levi. And in the midst of that, like God just gave me just his precious presence and some truth and uh,
Mm.
perspective. And in the midst of that, like I was like, okay, God, I'm open to whatever you want to do in our lives. And I saw like our family picture grow. And in that time,
I had been given a name, Wilder Hamilton. So probably like a month or two. I think it was after that podcast but it was in that same season. So I have this little promise baby. All of my children have been named by the Lord, most of them prior to their conception.
Mm.
So it's just a very like I've known about a lot of my babies before they ever came. And so it's not foreign,
Yeah.
to be waiting, for me to be waiting on a baby, something I've gotten rather comfortable in. But I was not like super eager either. I was very tired. I was like, I got a lot of kids.
I wonder why.
And I am open to it, Lord, but also like, okay. And he told me actually, as I am saying this, I'm remembering something he told me
Hmm.
then that I hadn't connected till right now. I was wondering why I started here, but yeah, he said then, I won't give you a baby until I know you're ready. And I was like, right, I can trust you. Like
Mm.
if I trust my fertility to you and I let you do the planning while we just steward our health and and our relationship and all of the things, like you steward what we can steward and leave you to be the giver of life. I can trust that you're not going to give me something when I'm ready. You're a
Yeah.
good, good father. And so he made me that promise. And that is incredibly
Mm.
potent right now.
I love that you just brought that back to your mind right now.
Yeah, that's incredibly potent right now.
Hmm.
So, that backstory, I've been waiting on Wilder. At the end of last year, I had this just word known. I was at a women's conference and the name Eden just dropped in my spirit. And I was like, oh, are we having other twins? Like, is it Wilder and Eden? Like, it just felt like a pair
Mm.
immediately. It was like Wilder Hamilton and Eden, Wilder and Eden. Could just feel it and see it. And I had been in Genesis all last year. I could not get away from the first 3 chapters of Genesis last year. I was reading much of Genesis, but like I kept circling back to the creation story, to the fall, to the creation story, to like just continuously. And so it just felt appropriate. I was like, okay, Eden, that feels right. Like, that makes sense. And then
Yeah.
we conceived her just about a month, 2 months later, and lost her shortly after. And I was like, well, is this Wilder? Was this Eden? Like, is this either one of them? Like, am I still waiting? Or is it twins? Like, I don't know. And through a series of really precious, beautiful confirmation through me, my husband, and group of all of my ladies, like just coming out of the woodworks that knew and didn't know, just really confirmed and set my heart at ease, knowing not at ease, but like just knowing, like I was wrestling with, like, I can't name a baby without knowing who they were and I don't
Mhm,
want to
mhm.
misname it. And so it was like the ease of like, okay, I can have a name for this child that my heart longs for. That ease. So I was in my home and he said to me this one of the songs, like I had made a worship list while I was like in the process of miscarrying and resting, and I just was on a circle of these songs. And one of the songs that had been in particular the entire week prior to, I don't know, I get into this place of like I will listen to the same song on repeat over and over, and just it's like what the Lord's saying to me at that time and like the prayer that's coming up in my heart. And I'm a worshiper. And so this song had been like that song of the week at that time prior to the loss. And then in the loss just became just an anthem of sorts. And it's Let the Ground Rest by Chris Renzema. And the chorus is just let the ground rest, because if it's not right now, it's for the best. You're going to grow. I know this, but for now, just let the ground rest. And later on in one of the verses, it says, these flowers only grow once they've tasted rain. And so this song was like in my heart and my spirit, really. And then I was in my home and I was just like, God, can you please just confirm, like, who was it? I don't want to name the wrong baby. I don't want to, like, was this another baby? Don't even have their names. Like, who was that? They're loved and they deserve a name. And I believe that conviction's from you. And so I'm trusting you to name them. And he
Mhm,
said the flowers only grow once they've tasted rain. Wilder needed the rain, and
mhm,
rain is her name. And I was like, oh, Eden Rain. Okay, the
mhm,
wild needs the rain. Okay. And so I named her Eden Rain. And just, and I grieved and I waited and I just was like, okay. But then this urge for Wilder came. I
mhm.
was like, okay. I wondered, like, is it twins? Like, is there a baby still in there? And there was not. But I wrestled with that a little bit
Mhm.
and just was like, okay, God, like, what do you mean that Wilder needs the rain? And just felt like I was being taken on a journey to really let my ground rest, really, like to heal and deal with like, okay, what is not that we're the keepers of life and death, but like there's some real health things that we can do when there's a loss. And so I was just like, my cycles have been a little shorter, and I've like maybe there's some things to look at. Like let's take I ran an HTA on myself. I just kind of was like, if I
Mhm.
was caring for someone, what would the things that I'd recommend and do? And so I started doing
Can I
that.
pause you for just a moment? Because
Yeah,
some of our listeners
100%.
might not know what HTMA is. Do you wanna just
Fair.
very briefly explain that?
Sure. Yeah. So an HTMA is a lab work I do often with my health coaching and midwifery clients, and it's a hair tissue mineral analysis. So it's a functional lab that largely looks at your mineral status and heavy metal load, and can really give, if anything, I've seen it, you just be validating of like your symptom
Mm,
picture and what you're experiencing when all your labs are like, well, they're normal and
mhm,
they're not normal and you don't know what's going on. And it's like there's still the HTMA just comes out with this like, "Oh, this is the problem. This is the root. This is," and it's not diagnostic, but it
mhm,
just gives you your mineral status. So, like, where your minerals are at and what you might be dropping, dumping, and what you might be deficient of and what balances. There's various ratios that give us
mhm.
insight onto your thyroids and adrenals and vitality and nervous system and cardiovascular health and protein usage. It's just a very widespread functional lab
And
because
so you do
minerals are
these for your
at the root.
pregnant clients as well as just women who come seek you out anyway, and you thought, "Let me do this
Yes.
for myself to get some insights maybe about
Yep.
what I'm looking at, what I'm
What
dealing
am I
with here."
doing? Yep, 100%. So, I just, is you gonna use the resources that I have? And so
Mhm,
I ran a test on myself. And most of the time, especially with symptom picture, I'm like, okay, I kinda expecting what I knew what to expect to some degree. I'm like, okay, it's not gonna I can tell it's probably gonna be maybe near 4 lows or a 4 lows pattern, etcetera. Basically the main 4 macro minerals of our body, the electrolytes, like being all deficient. I wouldn't have been shocked by that. I've had a lot of babies. I've been pregnant or nursing for the last 18 years of my life up until 3 months ago, 2 months ago. So, like, I've
and you
been
had a lot of trauma in
and
the
I had
last
a
year,
ton of
which
trauma
also
last year.
depletes minerals.
Yep. So it was like I've have the chronic, just pull and expenditure of my minerals, and then and I've been through a lot of trauma in my life, and then I had a lot of acute just one thing after another for the last 2 years really. The first year was like family stuff was just nuts. And
Right.
then, you know, and then that went into a year of just really hard bursts, just one hard birth after another. And I wasn't, I expected it to show some of what it showed, but I was really authentically shocked at like how bad some of it looked. And I was like, okay, this is rough. I've got some real things to be working on, which brought up the question of like, okay, I at this point was so eager for Wilder. Like,
Mm,
I was so eager. And there was some life and spark in my marriage that was just truly just beautiful
mm.
and very fresh, lots of life, lots of passion that was happening in our marriage and rolling over into our intimacy life. So that it also we were both eager for Wilder
Yeah.
in the midst of our grief, and also wrapped up with how much we were just re-falling in love with each other.
Mm,
Not that we were in a bad place before, but it just was like a fresh wind. And so there was just this like, yeah, eagerness, like, okay, I want a baby. Let's have the baby.
mm,
And then having that desire and then looking from a like midwife, health coach practitioner viewpoint on this lab. And I was like, there's no way I would recommend
mm.
a woman try and be actively conceiving with some of her minerals in this way. Like, it's not
Right.
going to be good for that baby. It's not going to be good on her body.
Mm,
And not that I'd ever say, like, I'm your 4th step. I don't tell you what to do. You have to take this with your husband and the Lord, and, like, what is he saying? And so I was just taking my own advice and going, "Okay, am I gonna follow the midwifery advice in my head to really set up myself well for preconception, or am I gonna follow the, like, deep desire of this promise baby. And, like,
Mhm.
you I just was like, "Okay, I've gotta journal this out. I've gotta, like, talk with the Lord and, pray on it," and I just nothing in me wanted to wait. Nothing in me wanted to, like, let the ground rest, like, I didn't, and this song was not in my head anymore, like, it had been a couple months.
Uh-huh.
That song
You'd
was not.
extracted your word from it already.
Yeah, and so I had gotten "The flowers only grow once they've tasted rain." Okay,
Mhm.
that's why that song was there, and so
Yeah.
it was still a song, it was a playlist, on my but it wasn't, like, fresh anymore, and so I had been like, "Okay, I do need to recognize that the flowers, like wild or need the rain, it's time to, like, heal my body, help
Mm.
me to make good soil, and be good soil." And so, in all of that, there was just this juxtaposition of, like, I am so eager, I need help, I need to, offer a good be a good vessel and steward my health well, instead of just moving by the very right, good, desire to have
Yeah.
what the Lord has promised me. Like, there's nothing
Mhm.
wrong in that, and yet also His timing. And so
Right.
I just was praying, like, "Okay, God, what is your timing?" And I had put it on my schedule, like, I'm gonna spend this whole morning to write it out, and Brooke had given me some lovely, beautiful questions, and in her just precious, like, her midwife mind kind of pulling out, like, "Okay," and she knew not to ask me immediately when I shared her my results. She was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna let you sit with that." Before she was like, "Are you sure it's a good idea?"
I had actually typed it out,
Yeah,
and then I was like, "No, I don't think I'm supposed to say that right now."
yeah, and
Like,
so
typed
sh
out something like, "Alright, does this make you reconsider whether or not this is a good time to actively try to conceive?" And then just
yeah,
had a check about it, so,
just like
yeah.
she knew it. I'm sure she was praying about it, but she was letting me come to that, and then when I came to her with it, she responded
Mm.
in such love and gentleness and with some really great introspective questions, and I was just like, "I love friends like this. This is why I have you people in my life." If you don't have a Brooke in your life, you need to find your people. But
Or
so what?
I was just gonna say, or get your Lauren, whatever.
Get your Lauren,
Get a
but
friend
yeah.
like the friends we have here.
Yes, you've gotta have good people who will point you back to the Lord and not try to be the answer for you, but
Mhm.
point you right back to the Lord, and that's exactly what she did, and so I had these questions and some of my own, and I was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna
Mhm.
take a good shower. I'm gonna go out and sit and journal." And I'd ask my husband, "Will you please be praying? Like, I just really wanna know what's our next step, like, are we trying or are we not?" Because we were actively trying, and it was like, I feel like we need to know what the Lord would have us do. And I got
Yeah.
in the shower and I just put on my playlist, and the Lord just whispered to me, like, what playlist to put on, and,
Hmm.
it was the playlist that I had created the week I'd lost Eden. And so I'm in the shower, and I'm playing this playlist, and this song comes on, and I was like, "You already told me."
Mhm. Mm.
Just knew, and I could hear him, like, "You've been waiting," like, it's like, says, "Been waiting on a moment, been waiting on a sign, waiting for them to call your name, and you're next in line. Been waiting for your time to come, your 15 minutes in the sun. So don't you find it strange that God, He made 4 seasons and only 1 spring. So just let the ground rest. Because if it's not right now, it's for the best. You're gonna grow, I know this, but for now, just let the ground rest." And I began to weep, and I banged on the wall because I just needed my husband. And he came in, and I just cried in his chest, and he knew, like, he already knew as well. The Lord had
Mhm.
told him in that same 5 minutes
Wow.
as he had stood out there, he'd already been told, and I was like, "He told us. He said to let the ground rest." And, like, I don't have to seek after yet another word. He's already said it, and so
Mm.
I just sobbed for a bit, but then the peace came, and just knowing, like, "Okay, I can trust you,
Yeah.
and I can let this rest. I can let my body rest, and I can move into a season of healing." And there's just been, it was almost like it illuminated, being able to go, "Okay, I'm gonna let the ground rest." In His sovereignty, He just began to show where all the things I needed to rest were at, and
Mhm.
I began to just see how exhausted I was and how much trauma I had been carrying. Not that I'd stuffed it, because I didn't stuff it. I had talked about it. I had prayed through it. I had peer reviewed and I'd done the things, but there was a lot. It was
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
lot. And he's given me this time of rest and, like, so much time off, and some of that brought
Uh-huh.
stress, just like, "Okay, I need to, like, what about the finances of this rest? And what is the," like, all the things that come
Right.
up when you're like, "Well, I can't rest. I don't have time to rest. I have this and that and the other thing," and all the normal excuses, like, they came and I wrestled with them, and yet he's provided, and yet he's shown his self faithful, and he's just been a really good gardener of my soul and my body, and so
So
I've been like, "Okay, I need to have a beauty weekend. I need to
uh-huh.
have some removal of some of the things that are on my plate," and some of it's just been like, I just need to process some of this and
Yeah.
let the time be so that I can do the things that I practice what I preach, and, adjust my circadian rhythms, and doing all the things that I would tell someone else to do that I was doing, but I was also just so spent that I almost couldn't do them well. I couldn't
Yeah.
put my so it's been a really beautiful thing, and in the midst of that, like, I've always just been like, "Okay, God, well, now I'm like, we're avoiding. I've never avoided. Like, you've told me to leave my fertility in your hands. Like, my whole childbearing years, I've left my fertility in your hands, and you've asked me to trust you in that, and you've brought me babies when it was time, and you promised me a couple of years ago that you'd only give me a baby when I was ready, and like, okay, so what does this season look like? What does it look like to let the ground rest
Yeah.
as it relates to this lifestyle of, I wouldn't call it open wound, but it has presented a lot like that.
Well, that's a really important distinction because the assumption in open womb is that trusting God with our fertility means that our womb is always open for business, so to speak.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what I'm hearing in your story is like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's always open for business. It means it's open or closed based on what he tells you.
Based on what he tells you.
Right.
And so that has brought up a wrestle of like, okay, well, what are we do we like, I'm not gonna just start taking hormonal birth control, which would not help my mineral status in any way, shape, or form. Anyway,
Right.
like, and so
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, and I mean, not to be crude, but, like, there's a passion that's happening in my marriage right now that I'm like,
Mhm.
"This is a gift from you." Like, I don't like, this hasn't been this fiery lately that I
Yeah.
don't wanna lose
Mhm.
probably because I'm not nursing or pregnant. Like, my body is finally able to have some of that reproductive focus on a biological level.
Yeah.
And so like, I just was kind of wrestling that with him, like, but Lord, you gave me this. What do I do with that? And something that I've been recognizing for the last since I gave him this, like, okay, I'll rest, Lord. And I think some of this feels silly because it's like, well, wouldn't that be a sign of unhealth? But I just think it's a sign of blessing. I don't think I've been ovulating. I've been going through a cycle, but I've not had any cervical fluid fertile window stuff that, like, would been like,
Amazing.
"Okay, this is the time that I would need to avoid," when we were wanting to. Like, just we just weren't going, "Okay, we're gonna actively try. Oh, look, the things are here, so let's do it." Or, like, we also have not come up to this point of, like, we might need to be not doing what our marriage is wanting right now.
Mm,
We've not come up against it, and, like, that just feels like such a gift and such a blessing. I know everybody's gonna have that story, and it just feels like such a thing for me. Like, he's just like, "Okay, you're trusting me. I got this. Hey, you
mm,
can't make a baby right now." Like, yeah, there's no egg. Like, he's just it makes me think, this is probably silly, but it makes me think about, I mean, he speaks to the water and say, "You can't go this far," right? Like, "You stop right here." Like, to the point that he can tell my body, "No, you stop right here." And that doesn't mean, like, I think it required my yes to
mhm.
let it rest, not just it took that partnership.
Yeah, he wanted your conscious partnership and
Yeah,
consent.
and the consent. Yeah.
Like, "We're in this together. I'm not just going to suddenly enforce infertility on you by taking away your
Right. Right.
ovulation."
It was just I just feel it's like okay, we're gonna let the ground rest. You're gonna let the ground rest. Cool. We're gonna let it rest now. Like, it just
Yeah.
And I don't know that for sure. I'm not temping to know. I haven't. Like,
Mm.
it's something that I wanted to start doing because of this, but I've just been following all of the, trying to avoid rules and I not run into a point where I would be breaking a rule.
That's
And so it
crazy.
was like, wait a second, how is that possible? And
Right?
I started looking at my chart and like, kind of looking at it from the outside in, going, wait a second. I think he's doing a thing. And so I'm still gonna be cautious and careful because one cycle of anal ovulation doesn't mean all of them are. And, I'm not saying be irresponsible about it, but like, or that I'm planning on it being irresponsible about trying to avoid. And I don't think other forms of contraceptive, I think just like there's other things to do and play around with when it's time. Cause I just don't feel good about external contraception. I just don't. And that's a personal conviction.
So
It
it's more
feels like
so it's more avoid during fertile window instead of using a
yeah, like, I
barrier
think
method.
we would
Yeah.
just yeah, I think I would just avoid the specific aspects that would bring a baby.
Mhm.
There are other fun things to do. So, we can cultivate intimacy in other ways
Mhm.
and not, cultivate a baby. So
Right. Yep. Yep.
so anyways, I don't know, I
Gonna have to
just felt
label this podcast episode explicit.
right? I don't
I
know.
said a swear word earlier, and then you're talking about all this. Just kidding.
I think I've tried
Just
very,
kidding. It's not
very,
explicit.
very well to
It's
be
not.
not
You're
explicit,
doing
but
great.
I know. I'm in fatigue conversation, you know? These are real things and real
Yes.
conversation, and the church doesn't talk about it enough, so there's
Mhm.
that. And I don't know, I just had this hope and unction that my waiting story might be a blessing to those who are waiting, whether they're trying to conceive or they're trying to avoid, like, really wherever you're at,
Yeah.
like, when we're in the waiting, to just know that if you feel his heart and don't see his hand
Mm.
you still have it all. Like, even if it's like, this isn't where I wanted him to move right now, if you just give him your yes and whatever that is and relax into him, you will see his hand in all sorts of ways that you weren't necessarily expecting. And I don't know. Yeah, I think that's just a word that I hope it's been the word that he's been giving me over and
Mm.
over and over. And um, I just want to pass it on.
Yeah. I'm so glad you shared that. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad. And I'm just so I I love that you're not okay, first of all, I love the Lord and how he's so gentle with you in this story, and it makes me think of that psalm, like, "He leads gently those who are with young."
Yes.
And, like, there's a special kind of gentle leadership from a good shepherd when we're in our childbearing years, that doesn't just mean when you're pregnant or when you have a toddler, but, like, also he doesn't wanna run you into the ground.
Right?
It's not like there's this principle that, like, Jesus is like, "Keep your womb open at all times, no matter what it costs you." Like, no,
Right.
no, like, he wants us to know, and he's showing you, I feel like. He's so trustworthy and
Yeah.
so gentle to even lead you in periods of, like, letting the ground lay fallow, like, and that is still your
Yeah.
obedience, and that's still your following your shepherd, and,
Yeah.
we've put out episodes about, stewarding fertility and such, and I feel like we've done a good job bringing up this topic on the podcast of,
Yeah.
like, not just assuming that, like, you can pick that you're gonna have 3 kids and then be done because 'cause you're scared about money or you
Right.
don't think,
Yeah.
like,
Right.
challenging people in that direction, we've done good, and I feel like your recent experience is just exemplifying the other side of the challenge,
Definitely.
like, the other ditch
Yeah.
is that we can, like, run ourselves into the ground trying to make
Yeah.
sure we're pleasing God by popping out babies, and, like,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
also not
Or even just being moved by your own desire for babies,
true. Yes,
like,
yeah, absolutely, yeah, I just
from
yeah,
a good
because
place,
that's where you were
like
more so. It wasn't you were,
yeah.
like, feeling obligated to pop out babies, but you just were
Yeah.
longing for a baby.
I just wanted a baby. I just
Yeah.
wanted my baby. I wanted my
Mhm.
promised baby, and and I still do. I still want him.
Yes.
And that longing is still there, but
Mm.
it's resting, and it's
Hmm.
rightly ordered, and I'm in the waiting. I'm not in a waiting like I always teach it, like, waiting on the Lord is not waiting in a waiting room. Waiting on the Lord is intertwining with him, and I've been intertwining with
Yep.
him more and deeper still, and it's been a breath of fresh air. He's allowing me to take a breath again.
Mhm.
I didn't realize really up
Mm.
until last week that I really hadn't been breathing as deeply as I could, as I should, as I want
Hmm.
to, as I teach, and he's just giving me new breath.
Yeah. Let
So,
your shepherd give you
yeah.
rest. And if you're somebody listening to this, and your shepherd might be
Yes.
beckoning you to take some rest so that he can fertilize your soil and like replenish it. Taking the gardening metaphor too far.
Yeah.
Heed him.
Not at all. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause there's so much. I mean, he talks about the land and the garden and the season so much in his word, and this might not
Mhm.
be a baby. It might be something else that's in your heart, some promise that is good and right and from the Lord, but it's not time yet. Like, it's okay to let the ground rest and to intertwine with him in this waiting season and be still and know. Be still and
Yeah.
know he is your God.
Thanks for sharing that, Lauren.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you for letting me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we can end it there. Let us know if that spoke to you. I would love to
Mhm.
hear that. If that brought in some beauty for you. Um, and even if there's a way we can pray for you, we would love to see that, whether it's in the community or even a private email. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that we would love to see prayer requests, and I would absolutely pray for them,
Yeah.
especially if you're in this waiting season and you just need some body of Christ to come around and hold you up.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right.
Right.
Bye
Well,
for now.
bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Holy Wild Birth. We hope that you were genuinely encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. If you're loving what you hear, please make sure that you share it. Leave reviews. That helps other mamas find this content as well. And don't forget to read the show notes, okay? Because that's where you can find our email address if you want to reach out to us and start a conversation. It's also where you'll find free offerings as well as invitations to work with me and or Lauren. We can't wait to get to know you. See you next week.